Are you thinking about homeschooling? Wouldn't you just love some insider information? What makes a homeschooler choose this way of life anyway? And how do they manage? And what's the homeschool life all about? Hi, I'm Lisa. This is the Catholic Marathon Mom channel. I help moms find joy in the everyday because joy is strength, joy is love, and joy is a net by which we can catch souls. And we're talking about homeschooling today. We're at the time of year when lots of moms and dads start considering homeschooling. Or maybe they've been thinking about it for a very long time and they realize right now is probably a good time to check into what laws they might need to abide by for their state, what resources they might want to put together, and what kind of support systems they're going to have during a homeschool type year. There are lots of homeschooling families out there. Do not feel like you'll be alone in this. And I thought it would be really cool if we could pull together some of these homeschooling families and ask them 5 questions, because I really feel like some of that inside information would be great to have. And I wish I could have found some of that 12 years ago when we started homeschooling. At the end of this video, you're going to find a playlist in the description box. And click on that because then you'll get to the other homeschooling parents. And another awesome thing is we have some homeschoolers over on Instagram who are going to be sharing in their posts or their stories their answers to these same 5 questions. So if you go and follow hashtag 5 questions for homeschoolers, you'll be able to find their answers over there as well. Here in my video, I reached out to a couple of my friends who are homeschoolers. I asked my friend Ashley if she would answer these 5 questions, and she was so kind, and she did. I also asked my friend MaryBeth, and she was gracious also, and has answered these questions as well. So we're going to take turns answering each of these 5 questions about homeschooling. So first off, I asked each of the moms to introduce themselves, but then also to answer the first question, which was how many kids are you homeschooling and how long have you been homeschooling? Our family's been a homeschooling family for 12 years. Right now I'm homeschooling 2, a 9th grader and a 7th grader. We have 2 older sons who graduated out of homeschool. They started homeschooling at grade 7, the oldest, and grade 5, his younger brother. They had previously attended Catholic school from pre-K 3 up till those other grades when we decided to make the leap and try homeschooling. Those guys graduated from homeschool after 12th grade. They went on to college, and because of their hard work and determination, they are college graduates. Praise God.
Hi, my name's Ashley. I've got 7 kiddos. 4 of those are currently being homeschooled, and we have always homeschooled, so this will be my 9th year.
Hi, my name is MaryBeth Eberhard. I am the mom of 8 kids, and I've been homeschooling for 12 years. I just graduated my first student.
The second question I asked everyone was, what was the defining moment when you knew you were going to homeschool? For us, it was a really difficult decision. For me personally, as mom, I'm an RN. I had actually originally gone to college thinking I would be an educator, and quickly realized the incredible talent you needed to have as an educator. And I moved towards the nursing programs because I felt maybe family-wise my schedule could be flexible and I could have a lot more control over my environment. But like I just mentioned, our kids were in Catholic school. It was a very small school, great teachers. We have made lifelong friends from that pre-K 3 classroom and pre-K 4 classroom that the kids were in. And 2 things came together which really pushed us to find some sort of other option. The first was, and understandably because a small school and trying to keep really awesome teachers, there were tuition increases because they need to do that to run the school. We understood. But also, to me, there was a massive amount of homework. The oldest was in middle school his last year, and the youngest was a 4th grader. But the amount of homework was so much. They would be at school all day. They'd get home about 3 and then start homework. They'd have their snack next to them, and they'd be doing homework and working, and they're exhausted. And there was so much work, I felt I couldn't even let them go play, or if I did, they would go and they were tired and there were meltdowns. It was just breaking my heart. There was just a lot of frustration for them and for me as mom, to the point where one of them asked if they could just stop playing their favorite sport because there was just no time for them to do their homework. At that point, my husband and I were like, there is got to be another way. And we had friends who were homeschooling, and we had spent so much time with their family. Why? Because their kids were joyful and peaceful and really smart. I remember being at her kitchen counter, and she looked at me and she said, "You are a homeschooler." I remember laughing and telling her, "Are you kidding me? School is a good thing. It is good that they go there and I can have breakfast with my girls and I can do my errands and I can be home for a little bit, get a breather, and then they return." And she just kept smiling at me with her sweet smile, my friend Teresa, and she just said, "Okay, but you're a homeschooler. You'll see." And she was right.
For me, I would not say that I had a defining moment that I decided to homeschool. When my son was entering kindergarten, my husband suggested that we homeschool, and I kind of thought that that was a terrible idea. I had never really thought about it before. Neither my husband nor I were homeschooled, and so the thought of doing that was really intimidating to me. I really thought that I was going to forget something or not teach them things or not maybe going about it the right way. And I didn't know about all the resources that were out there. So I was actually really just scared to do it. So my compromise with him was that I would spend 1 year doing kindergarten with him at home. And I was convinced that by the end of that year, I would have a list of reasons why we shouldn't homeschool and that it was a terrible idea for our family and that we needed to put all the kids in school. But of course, over the course of that year, the Lord slowly changed my heart and just showed me how, what a joy it is to homeschool and how I can be with my kids in that journey as they're learning and the things that maybe you feel like you're going over and over, and then all of a sudden it clicks and you can see that joy in your kids' face when they learn, and to be part of that is just so rewarding. So by the end of the year, I of course had a list of reasons why I agreed that we should homeschool, and we've never looked back.
The defining moment that I knew that we were going to homeschool as a family was when my son Gabe was born. He was born with a rare form of muscular dystrophy, and we needed to travel out of state for about 3 years, and we were traveling every week at times. It just seemed like time to take the show on the road. So as a teacher, I felt comfortable doing that. And then we just kind of found our groove. We loved the family time that we had together, and we loved the choice of curriculum. I got to teach and be at home, and it just felt really right.
The third question I asked was, do you create your own curriculum? Do you use a faith-based curriculum, or do you use a secular curriculum? And like I mentioned, I was an RN, and then I was a stay-home mom, and now I was going to switch into teacher mode, and that just terrified me. I had so many awesome teachers myself. I went to public school my whole life. I thought, wow, there's no way I can replicate what I received in school in home. I mean, I knew myself, but I felt completely unqualified to do it. So that same friend of mine, Teresa, asked me, how many hours of homework are you doing with the guys? And I said, I have 3, 4 sometimes hours of homework. And she said, Lisa, that's a day of homeschool. She said, tell me how homework goes. Do you just have them open their books and then you like go and do house chores or exercise or something? And I said, no, of course not. I'm right there with them. In fact, lots of times, since they're taking notes in class and things, it seems to work for me to like read through the lesson again with them and then have them try the problems, and then I explain other ways to do it, and then they work through the problems. Or if it's language arts or science or something else, we kind of go through the lesson, and then they would do their work, and I would kind of review it and make sure they understood and everything. And she said, you're homeschooling them, so you're paying tuition and then sending them to school, and then when they get home, you're homeschooling them. So bottom line, I was fearful. I didn't know if I would be able to give them what they needed themselves, learning-wise, but maybe what the state thought they needed. I was really worried about that. So we've used a couple different curriculums. The first one we used was the state curriculum that they offered for kids who were schooled at home. And it was essentially lots of big books, and it was kind of dry, and we used it because I felt in line with what the state wanted, and I didn't want anyone to have to question or come make a home visit and check that I was doing the right thing. I was super fearful. But after 2 years of using that, I could just see the kids kind of like, okay, it's time for school. There was really no spark. It was really not very engaging for them. So I was looking for another curriculum. So from talking with some other homeschoolers, they were using Seton Home Study School. So that's a Catholic curriculum, and it is an all-in-one curriculum, which is what I was looking for. So an all-in-one curriculum, or you'll sometimes hear homeschoolers call it a box curriculum. That means all the subjects are there. When you sign up with them, all the books for all the subjects get mailed to you. You have access to their lesson plans, which I also desperately wanted because I wasn't sure how to break up the year for the kids. And then those books arrive at your house and you unpack them all and you just follow the curriculum that they've given you. It worked for us, and we used that for many years. In fact, our oldest son graduated from Seton Home Study School after 12th grade. Then we had 2 little children who started homeschooling, and we started them with Catholic Heritage Curriculum. I highly recommend this curriculum for littles. They have a very gentle pace, and they have these incredibly simple books for learning to read that work like a dream. I was astounded. So Catholic Heritage Curriculum for the littles. When I was exploring the older grades, I was looking for something a little bit different than what they have. Also good offerings, but I just was looking for something a little bit more structured maybe. So we stayed with Catholic Heritage Curriculum until they were about 2nd grade, and we moved over to Mother of Divine Grace School. Now Mother of Divine Grace School, it is what my second son graduated from. They have a couple options. You can simply order your books from them, and then you can order separately lesson plans that they provide for each of those subjects. Or you can sign up with them as a student, which is a tuition as well. And then you have the option, once you are registered as a student, to take learning support classes or have teacher services. Those are phone calls, and the learning support classes are in Adobe Connect classrooms where the kids don't see each other and they don't see the teacher, but it's all on screen, and they have chat boxes where they answer questions and things like that. I really wanted that for high school because kids' personalities by the time they middle school and high school and their desire for independence, it really matches well because they're still kids and they still need mom and that support at home. But being in that classroom, I've just found this like blossoming of each of the kids who have done online classes. So that's where we are now. We're doing Mother Divine Grace School, some online classes, and some classes that we manage using their lesson plans. And we move through the year. We start in August, and we always plan to end at the end of May. Sometimes we spill over a little bit into June.
Curriculum. I love to talk curriculum. As a homeschool mom, we talk about this a lot, especially when we get together. I prefer to get a referral from other moms about what's worked and what hasn't worked, because there's actually a ton of stuff out there, which can seem a little intimidating, but getting references from each other is great. One of my favorite things though about homeschooling is that I can cater to my kids and to their different learning styles. So for example, right now I'm using 2 different math programs because my son and my daughter, they learn very differently. And so one works better for one and the other one works better for the other, and it's perfect. That's one thing that I love, that I can do that as a homeschool mom. As far as faith-based versus a secular, I tend to do a lot of faith-based stuff, but not everything. Obviously religion is, history, things like that, some science. I tend to stick with the faith-based curriculum for that. You know, math, grammar, things like that, learning your grammar rules, those don't necessarily have to be, you know, faith-based. I pick and choose. I don't follow like a box kit that comes. I like to piece it all together. It just works better for me, for my kids. Depends on the schedule that year. If we have more things that we are leaving the house for, you know, then I'll tweak how much we do. And anytime I can combine multiple subjects into one topic or something like that, doing handwriting and history or different things together in one thing that you can check off. I love doing that because it does save a lot of time.
For us, choosing a curriculum is always a hodgepodge. It's actually something I love to do. It's kind of like when I go to the shopping mall and window shop. It's a ton of fun for me because I have lots of kids and one size does not fit all. So we hodgepodge it. There's different curriculums for different learners, and that works well for us. We manage it with a co-op and we outsource some of our classes with tutors, and for us, it's working really well.
My fourth question I asked was, what is your greatest challenge and how did you overcome it, or how are you facing it? I have two great challenges and they're all my problem. One of them is expecting things to go just perfectly well, that every lesson will be very understood and will be just fine and peaceful, and I'm always a little bit rocked when, that math fact is not remembered anymore and we gotta double back, or this child is not spelling the thing the way I thought and I don't understand that. I thought we covered this, and that frustration really isn't about the child and I'm not upset with them, but I always reflect back like, wow, what gap did I leave there? Why didn't I make sure this was covered? Like, I'm failing them, and it just kind of spirals into this beating up of yourself. And the other one is a constant struggle, I think. That is that if you homeschool your kids are at home. And if you don't work outside of the home and you're at home, which means you're with each other 24/7. I'm not talking about lessons and classes outside the house or youth group and things like that. Yes, of course. But finding the right way for myself to find opportunities to grow, or time to be with friends and make relationships that are life-giving, or just spend time alone, has been a struggle only because I haven't put much effort into it, if that makes sense. I might want to see a friend or go to a Bible study, but at the end of the day, with homeschooling and house chores and such, but I am getting better, and I truly find those times of fellowship or out with my husband alone just very life-giving. Even sitting and praying and reading the Bible alone, I really do love it. I'm not seeking to be alone, and I don't want out of this life or situation at all. Just stepping back and just taking a little bit of time. I think it's healthy, I think it's smart, and that's on me. I really need to do a better job with that.
One of the greatest challenges for me as a homeschool mom is my personality. I am one of those people that I love to have a to-do list and I love to check everything off on that list. I'll even go and do chores and then realize that like I did something extra, so I'll go write it down on the list just so I can cross it off to say I did it. So at the beginning of the year, I get really excited about all these things we're gonna do and accomplish this year, and then I realize that as we get into life and we're changing diapers and chasing toddlers and we have appointments and all these different things going on, which are good things, but they take up time during the day too. And so when I'm not able to check off every single math lesson that week, then I start getting frustrated and feel like we're so far behind, and we're not. We're just doing life. And again, I have to remind myself, even in school, the kids, they don't do every single math lesson and every single problem in every single lesson every year. So we don't have to do that either. If they know the concept, they can move on. But I also love to have to remind myself that we can go at the pace of that child. If I've got someone who's still struggling with their, multiplication facts, we can spend time just cranking out those and just focusing on that and learning it really well before we move on to the next, whatever the lesson is that they need to learn. But if a kid does get something and they catch on to it really quick and they don't need that repetition for whatever it is, you can just move past the other stuff and not have to spend that time focused and doing the repetition if it's not needed. So I have to learn. I don't have to check every specific thing off and just move at the pace of my children.
My greatest struggle with homeschooling, I have two of them. The first is accountability. It is not only accountability for my kids, but accountability for me, because when the sun is shining and the grass is green and the birds are singing outside, I'm awfully tempted to throw curriculum out the window and read a book outside and enjoy that time. Knowing that about me is key. So I plan for those days. I plan for that reality because I don't want to change that about me. And I've noticed that my kids are very much like me in this way. And so we buckle down in the snowy days here in the Midwest, and we discipline ourselves to start school a little earlier in the late summer so that when the spring days come, we're ready for them. And another struggle that we have faced and overcome is the grass is greener syndrome. And we did that when my kids felt like the public school kids were, having something, a better experience than they were. And it really wore us down for a while. And my husband said, let's try it. And so we didn't put them in public school, we put them in Catholic school. There was definitely a sticker shock to the lifestyle change for our family. We had been homeschooling for about 9 years. And so the early wake-ups, the large amount of schoolwork required after they got home, plus just the dynamics that were very different from the social groups that they have here in their homeschool community, made them realize that the situation that they had at home was a pretty good deal. And so what that gave to us was a sense of camaraderie in that me getting them out to school there, that was hard for me. And so I approach homeschooling with a more grateful heart, but so do they. And having kids who recognize the blessing of being educated at home makes it all worthwhile.
The fifth question I asked was, what advice would you give someone considering homeschooling for the first time? And I would give them advice that I got, and it was take it 1 year at a time. And I thought that was pretty sound advice. I thought I could take 1 year at a time. It's just 1 year, and you can see how that goes. You could see if your family enjoys it. You could see if you enjoy it. It's a big shift if your kids have been in school, of course. You and your husband sit down, pray about this, and pray about it for a while. Find some super homeschooling friends. If you don't have any homeschooling friends, with a quick internet search, you can find a homeschool support group. There's all kinds of support groups, faith-based ones, secular ones, and you're gonna find people in that group who are gonna support you. They're gonna encourage you. They're gonna tell you, hey, this is what my life is like right now. And I would tell them that I cherish these years that I have been with these kids homeschooling. I've gotten to see that light bulb moment happen that so many teachers talk about being like their favorite part of their job. I've seen that so many times, and it's just remarkable to see that. And then as the kids are little and learning to read, amazing. I mean, I remember telling my husband one day, I taught him how to read. I mean, he can read. And we just really amazing little and big steps that they take as they're schooling. And then middle school happens, and that's such a good and hard age for them. They're growing up, but they still want to be a kid, and they're taking on harder subjects, and it's getting more intense. And then high school, they're not ready to leave the nest. Of course, they're kids, but their horizons are wide open, and their studies are really tough, and the demands on them are a lot, and that's all prepping them for what they're going to do after 12th grade, whether or not they're going to go to trade school, college, the military, religious life. It's very cool to have them around, or the wonderings about being 15, 16, 17, and you're there to answer it. That has been such an amazing part, is to get to know them and be with them in those times.
I would say talk to as many people as you can that homeschool to get all kinds of ideas about what they love about it and what they don't like about it. But remember that your homeschool is going to be unique to you and to your family, to your kids. It's always great to learn about other people's schedules, about what curriculum they use, about how their room is set up, different things like that. And those are all great things to learn about. But remember that yours is going to be unique to your family and to your kids and how they learn and what works for your schedule, what works for your kids. And also remember that that might change over time. If for a while, having a morning basket time and then having a very specific schedule to follow works great, but then a new baby arrives, right? And that might kind of change how that schedule looks like versus having kids just snuggle up next to you and you're doing math there on the couch. I know some friends that love to have, the board up on the wall and the kids are in chairs and desks and it's more like a schoolroom, and that works great for them. Every family is going to be a little bit different in what their schooling looks like, and that's perfectly okay. Don't compare your homeschool to other people's homeschool. Do what works for your family.
If someone asked me for advice with beginning homeschooling, I would tell them that they need to be true to themselves. I once heard that comparison is the thief of joy, and it's really true. Homeschooling can work great for your family if you can make it work within the dynamic of your family and not get caught up in what someone else is doing. We tend to think, oh, well, that person is doing, this curriculum over here or that curriculum over there, and that looks really good. And the truth is, your kids, your family. If something looks right and feels right, then do it. And the beauty of homeschooling is that If it's not right, guess what? You can switch and try something else. And I have shelves and shelves of things that we've tried, and I'm able to give to someone else and say, maybe this will work for you. And likewise, people have done that for me. I think another piece of advice would be to get connected. Co-ops and social groups are fantastic, and they've made lifelong friends for my kids and lifelong friends for me. And I'm just really blessed. I look forward to schooling my kids. I look forward to the next, I've got about 10 more years. I can't wait. I wake up every day anxious to do it.
So do not shy away from the idea of homeschooling. It might seem mountainous and it might seem like a really steep learning curve, but there's so many resources out there, and you're gonna find a whole load of them in that playlist that you can find in the description box. So those were the 5 questions. I hope you were able to get a lot of information and hopefully some encouragement. Click the playlist link in the description box below and you'll find the rest of the other videos. Those are super moms in there that took some time to answer your questions. And I want to thank my friend MaryBeth and my friend Ashley for being part of this video. They aren't on YouTube, but they are super moms, and I really wanted to know their answers. So MaryBeth, Ashley, thank you so much for helping out the moms with your answers to the questions. Click over there and find the rest of the videos. God bless you guys. At the end of this video, you're going to find a... Just super fearful and not sure of myself, obviously.